Welcome to Behind the Stats here at Chapel Sports Museum and Restaurant here in North Kansas City, 323 Armour Road. I am Matt Folks. Bill Grigsby here in the middle, longtime, just a legendary sports figure here in Kansas City. Dave O'Hara down there on the other side. But Bill, first off, a lot of people have asked when they knew you were going to be on the show tonight, even though we don't want to dwell on the Chiefs here for this video segment, but looking at the Chiefs draft from a couple weeks ago, what are your thoughts?
I would say it is the best draft that the Chiefs have had since the days of Buck Buchanan, Bobby Bell, that era. That was early in the game when we got some outstanding players. The Chiefs got them in this draft. In fact, the Sporting News said Kansas City had the only A-plus draft of all teams in the National Football League. And when you consider the number of teams, that's pretty good.
So, Bill, what you're saying is what everybody wants to hear, hopefully, is Herm Edwards and Carl Peterson said we're looking for 5 to 6 starters out of these 12 drafts. Is that contributors right away?
You know, it's hard to sell when you've been losing and had a bad season last year. But I admire Herm and Carl for that. They want to turn this franchise around. You have to do it with younger people. Get some youth in there and outstanding players. They did that in this draft. They've not accomplished everything they want to accomplish, but they took a big step in the right direction. And I would, sure guess, and I've been here since 1963, since the beginning. I've seen good times and bad, the good, bad, and ugly. I would say this team is probably 8 or 9 team a game winner this year. And I'd say in 3 years, by the time that new stadium is all finished, that, hey, we'll be in the playoffs and be in the playoffs for quite some time.
Now, even though a lot of younger Kansas City fans know you strictly from the Chiefs, you've been around here for years and years and years. I'm not going to say how many years, but a long time, since this was a minor league town. And you used to call wrestling. Now, tell us the story. Here's the story I want you to get you to tell. You helped get a wrestler on the $64,000 question game show.
Oh, I did Lou Plummer. Lou was quite a character, a massive man. At 60 years old, he was still a great wrestler. And Lou wanted to get on the $64,000 challenge, and I pulled a few strings and got him on, and his topic was the Bible. Well, he knew that they would take him because how many wrestlers you think read the Bible? Well, Lou was on there, and he said they'll put me over, and they did. They gave him the answers to all the questions through the early rounds. Finally got to the finals in a few weeks, and I'm watching that night at home here, and Lou's in New York, and he's in the isolation booth. And they didn't give him the answers, and the sweat is beginning to come down his forehead and his back, and he's beginning to shake a little bit because he is gone, baby. He is brain dumb. And that was it. He lost that night, and they got him off the program. That's the way people do that to friends of mine. They get them to the pinnacle, and then they cut off their stilts.
Takes you back to the days of Charles Van Doren, right?
Oh.
Wasn't that Charles Van Doren, right?
Well, anybody that couldn't figure out that they were cheating on that, be out of their mind. Hey, they're doing it today. You know, is it a deal or is it not? Who cares? You know, I don't care.
Well,
don't deal with me.
Hey, we're not getting the money, right?
That's
so
right.
I'm going to cut this short because we're going to cut to another question. But I got to say, and if you haven't checked out our podcast yet of the radio show that we just did with Bill for the last hour, the story I love the most is the Sheik going down 14th and Grand looking for hailing a cab on a camel. Is that right?
Well, this is after a match with 10,000 people in the old auditorium, and the Sheik, he played the part. He came in on a camel, and he hoped to leave on a camel, but somebody hid his camel, and he won the match, and he would throw eyeballs out to the fans. He would make these eyeballs out of wood and color them, and he'd act like he was chewing them, and oh, the people hated this son of a bum. So the chief, and again, he fought a very handsome young man from K-State to win the match. Now there's 50 guys at ringside want to kill him, and he's looking for a way out, and he's glancing around the ringside, and all at once he makes a move, went over the top rope, jumped over 50 people, and headed for the exit. His robes, his Arab robes, it looked like Lawrence of Arabia in reverse. He is flying for that door. It's 8 above outside. He hit the wrong door, not the locker room, but the outdoors. He's on 14th Street running for his life with 50 irate wrestling fans pursuing, ready to kill him. And he's screaming, "Taxi! Taxi!" trying to get a taxi cab. at 11 o'clock at night. It's 8 above.
Well, the great news is as Grace goes into that story, and you got to listen to the podcast because Bill, besides being a broadcaster of college, minor league sports, major league sports, pro teams, I know this is hard for a lot of you viewers of Metrosports.com or KCMetrosports.com or KCOnDemand.com. A lot of these endings were contrived, and Bill was a writer of sorts as well. But talk about your relationship and your expletives deleted, your thoughts on Charlie Finley, the owner of the Kansas City A's.
Well, Charlie was an evil man because no, I'm serious.
Don't hold back.
He hurt people, and he thought he owned everyone. In fact, the one night in Minneapolis, he was very rude and nasty to his own brother. Had I been his brother, there'd have been a battle royal going on in the hotel lobby. He was just that kind of man. He made it, I'd say, rather luckily in the insurance business. So he came to Merle Harmon and myself were broadcasting, and he wanted to hurt some baseball players that weren't doing too well. He wanted to hurt their reputation on the air, and he wanted us to do it. He wanted us to be the messenger, and we refused. And he said, "You're going to do it? I own the team." I said, "No, we don't have to. We were hired to broadcast play-by-play." He said, "That's all right, but I own the team, and you never get a new contract." I said, "You know where you can stick it?" And I walked out. Merle did too. Probably the best thing we ever did was get away from Charlie Finley.
Now, finally, a couple of players you've got a chance to know over the years, Mantle and Maris. And what story maybe of Mickey Mantle maybe stands out a little bit to you?
Mickey Mantle was a tremendous baseball player. He played in pain, and they said he drank too much. There was a reason that he drank. He had osteomyelitis, and every time he took a step, much less run, it was like driving daggers into his leg. But Mickey never complained. He was hurt almost all through his career. A tremendous athlete and baseball player. And Maris was a cut of a different guy. He wasn't the rounder that Mick was, but my gracious, was he a great ball player. And who would have thought when he was in Kansas City for the short time he was, that when he left there he would go to New York, become a Yankee, and break the Babe Ruth home run record. The press treated him terribly in New York, along with Babe Ruth's widow and Ford Frick, who was the commissioner of baseball. Ford Frick really was the evil genius of the whole thing, because he had been Babe Ruth's ghostwriter earlier, and he wasn't going to let anybody tarnish the record of Babe Ruth, much less a newcomer like Roger Maris. So that's why Frick said he'll have to have an asterisk by his name, where it says 61 home run.
Now, you talked about a brief, quick story, though, about Maris in Chicago with you and Louis Aparicio. And as we wrap up here, we'd love to hear that story again, if you could, please.
I don't want to tell the story again because I've told it twice today. I told it to a writer in New York City, but it was about the Del Prado Hotel. Your hands are too quick. I thought you moved the mic.
Sorry about that.
We were in the Caribbean room in Chicago, and it was the night before a game of the White Sox. Lopez was managing Chicago, and Mickey, not Mickey, but Roger and me, Ray Moore, a pitcher for the White Sox, and Louis Aparicio are in this after-hours joint. And we closed her down. I don't know what time it was. Who cares? All I had to do was broadcast the next day. They had to play. Roger had 2 home runs. Shows you what you can do, even if you've had a bad night. Ray Moore, the pitcher for the White Sox, we got to him early. Scored 15 runs, and Lopez wouldn't take him out of the game because Lopez knew that Ray Moore had been out on the town the night before, and he told him, he said, "Son, you're staying in there all day. I don't care if they score 50 runs." And his uniform was so drenched with sweat and booze that you could smell it clear up in the press room.
Well, Bill, we appreciate it. We hope we can get you on back in October. And if you want to hear more stories like that, you can go to our website, www.behindthestatsradio.com. You can hear the podcast of tonight's show. We didn't have any fun at all tonight, and you'll be able to catch that.
And my address is, for all checks, you cheap guys.
At the Chateau Avalon.
You're like Jim Chappell. You wouldn't give me the time of day.
We gave you the time of day, but Chappell, I think, bought your meal.
As Ed Murrow used to say, the great newsman, good night and good luck.
There you go.